Hi, my name is Brooke and I work with Nebraska Agriculture in the classroom. And today we are going to do an activity called competitive farming, where we're going to look at what it takes for farmers and ranchers to sell their crops or their livestock at market and what that all entails. And we are going to do that through a fun hands-on activity using M&Ms. So before we begin our activity, we need a few supplies. We will need one bag of M&Ms, the competitive farming worksheet, which can be found on our website, a calculator, and a writing utensil. If you haven't gathered those supplies yet, go ahead and press pause. Once you have those supplies gathered, come back and we will continue on with our activity. In Nebraska, agriculture is our #1 industry. Agriculture is really important to us. Have any of you ever heard of the word agriculture before? Agriculture is the science of growing crops and raising livestock. Crops are plants that farmers grow for us to eat or for our animals to eat, and livestock are farm animals. These are a few of the crops and livestock animals that we raise right here in our state. We are very fortunate to use 91% of our land to help us grow these plants and take care of our livestock animals. One of the crops we grow is potatoes. Potatoes grow a lot in western Nebraska in the sandier soil, and we can use potatoes for French fries, mashed potatoes, baked potatoes, and a lot of other, even potato chips and a lot of other food products. We grow sugar beets. Sugar beets grow underground like a carrot does, and we get sugar from it. If you have ever helped bake a cake or cookies, anything like that where you've added sugar into the mix or it's on the ingredient list, it comes from a plant that looks like this. We also grow dry beans. Dry beans grow in Nebraska, so if you like kidney beans, pinto beans, great white northern beans, we grow all of those beans right here in our state, as well as wheat. Wheat is harvested and then ground up into flour to give us the flour we need for baking so that we can bake cake or cookies, pasta, cereal, crackers. All of those food products come from wheat. We also grow some sorghum in Nebraska. So if you know someone who can't eat wheat because they have a gluten intolerance, sorghum is a great option to choose from as well. And we get a lot of similar products like we can make from wheat. We grow corn. We grow several different types of corn in Nebraska. This picture of corn is not the type of corn we eat. This is called dent corn, and that's because you can see the little dents in the kernels here. We grow this corn in Nebraska to feed to a lot of our livestock animals. They love to eat corn. We can also use corn for a lot of other things like ethanol and a lot of products that we use every day, like the crayons we color with have corn oil in them. We grow popcorn. Popcorn grows on a cob just like corn, the sweet corn or the dent corn that we use. We are the #1 popcorn producer in all 50 states, which is really exciting. So we grow more popcorn than any other state does. We raise soybeans. Soybeans are nicknamed the miracle bean because they have so many different uses. We can eat it, sometimes called edamame or soy sauce, tofu, soy milk, but we also feed it to a lot of our pigs and chickens in our state as well. We get a fuel, just like corn, we can get ethanol to burn in our cars. Soybeans give us biodiesel, which we use in big trucks and buses, so it's a fuel alternative that we can use. We raise beef cows. Beef cows give us meat. It's an option that we can choose to eat. We also raise dairy cows. If you see, they look a little bit different. The dairy cow's #1 purpose in life is to provide us with milk so that we can make cheese, butter, yogurt, ice cream, those tasty things. We also raise pigs, which provide us with pork. And we also raise chickens in Nebraska. We have 2 different types of chickens. One is called a layer, and they provide us with eggs, and the other chicken is called a broiler, and they provide us with meat. These are just a few of the crops and livestock animals that we raise right here in our state. Again, we use 91% of our land to help us provide food for people in our state, but for people all over the world too. Farmers have a really important job when it comes to selling their crops to the market. And so I have a few words that I want you to kind of think about before we begin our activity. What do you think of when you hear or see the word future? What comes to mind? Maybe it's something that happens later on, what we see in our lives in the years ahead, maybe something to come down the road. What does it mean for farmers and ranchers? For farmers and ranchers, the word future is often an uncertain word because we don't know for sure what will happen. Think about it in terms of farmers and what they do. In what ways does an uncertain future directly apply to the farmer? Maybe they don't know if their crops will grow, if the animals will be safe, or even if the weather will be good and allow those crops to grow throughout the year. Maybe they get a bad hailstorm that takes away all of their crops, or it's too wet in a field, similar to our floodings that all of our floods that happened last year. Some of those farmers weren't able to plant their crops. So the future is unpredictable. Farmers can't always guarantee how much crops they will harvest or what the price will be for corn or soybeans when they harvest it out of their fields. They have to do a lot of planning to get the most money for their crop. Today, we are going to explore the futures market in agriculture and practice predicting how much crop to market to get the best price. And before we do that, we are going to look at we have 5 different vocabulary words that I want to talk about so we understand what these words mean when we do our worksheet today. The first word is futures. Futures is a commodity or stock bought or sold upon agreement of delivery at a later date. For example, farmers will pre-sell their crops at a set price for actual delivery of those crops at a later time. So a farmer might lock in a price for corn, for example, in early spring before they even planted their crops. And then they have to guarantee that they have that many crops to sell when they harvest it in the fall, if that kind of makes sense. So it's something that the farmers pre-sell before they even have for them to sell at a later day. An acre. Say that word with me, acre. An acre is a portion of land about the size of a football field. So if we look at Memorial Stadium, the size of a football field equals 1 acre of land. Farmers typically grow corn hundreds or thousands of acres every year, depending on the size of the farm. So acres are the measurement or the amount of land a farmer uses to produce crops. The farmer uses the number of acres planted to help plan the total number of crops that they produce. The next word is bushels. Say that word with me, bushels. A bushel is how a crop is measured. It can be measured by weight or volume. So 1 bushel of corn equals 56 pounds. A bushel typically fits into a basket that looks like this. It's the amount of corn that a farmer produces is measured in bushels per acre. So if we think back to that football field, the farmers want to know how many bushels per acre they can harvest or produce each year. A bushel, I like to say, is comparable to the size of a laundry basket when you look in terms of things that relate to us on our daily lives. So 1 bushel of corn equals 56 pounds, and a farmer wants to know how many bushels per acre they can estimate that they will produce each year. The next term is expenses. Expenses are items the farmer must pay in order to stay in business. For example, any fuel costs, any seed costs. So farmers have to buy their seeds, and they usually buy that from a seed dealership. They might be different brands of seeds based on the different genetics that they want to use and for the type of corn or soybeans or any other plant that they want to grow that year. They have to take in consideration the expense of fertilizers or any property taxes or any other taxes that might come into play when it comes to producing the food that they grow that eventually comes to our plate. So they have to take and consider the expenses. And then we have the word profit. Profit is the amount of money made after expenses are paid. For example, farmers seek to earn a profit by selling their crops at the best price so that there will be money left over after expenses. This is why the futures market is so important, because farmers have to take into all of these considerations about how much the corn costs each year, how many expenses they have going into their fields, so that they can turn over a profit and have money coming back into their pockets so that they can continue to farm again the next year. So a profit relates to the money they earn after they sell their crops and after they have paid all of their expenses. That brings me to our game, the gamble. I want you to pull out your worksheet now, and I have it pulled up here as well. We are going to do this together. I can pull it over here. And I want you to take your bag of M&Ms. You are not going to open these. Do not open your bag of M&Ms yet. Our first step is the gamble. So leave your bag of M&Ms unopened and predict how many of each color of M&M candy you will get in your bag. You will have approximately 55 to 60 M&Ms in the bag. So I went ahead and guessed on my own. Your numbers will be different than mine. This is just an example to follow. I guessed that there would be 8 blue M&Ms, 7 brown M&Ms, 12 red M&Ms, 11 orange M&Ms, 9 yellow M&Ms, and 10 green M&Ms. Go ahead and pause the video briefly, and I want you to answer step number 1 without opening your bag of M&Ms. Go ahead and do that. Press pause, and when you're finished, resume playing. And we'll move on to step number 2. Once you have finished step number 1, the gamble, it is time to pre-sell our corn. This is where the farmer makes a prediction about how many seeds they're going to harvest in hopes to have a higher premium. I want you to take your numbers from step number 1, so whatever you guessed for blue, brown, red, orange, yellow, and green, and go to page 3 of our M&M graph, and I want you to take those numbers, and under the E, which is the estimated numbers, I want you to graph the number that you guessed. So originally I guessed that there would be 8 blue M&Ms. I put X's in here. If you have a blue marker or a colored pencil and you want to graph it like a bar graph, go ahead and do that. I put X's on mine since I'm doing it as a fillable PDF. But then go ahead and graph those guesses under the E portion of our graph. Once you have done that, you can go ahead and scroll back up to the top, and we are going to talk about step number 2. Pause your video if you are still graphing your chart for your estimated guesses of M&Ms. Once you are ready for step number 2, the pre-selling, I'm going to ask you if you would like to sell your corn, which are the M&Ms, before you harvest, before you open your bag, and get a premium price for your commodity. A commodity is a crop that we grow, so corn, soybeans, wheat, those are all considered commodities. And we are using corn today to represent our commodity, which are the M&Ms that we're using. So do you want to sell your corn or your M&Ms before you harvest, before you open your bag of M&Ms? This will give you a higher price, which in return, we can pre-sell our M&Ms for $3.50 or for $3.20 once we open our bag. We want to sell at a higher price to make more money in the long run. If I go over here, looking at the number of M&Ms that I guessed, I decided to take a risk and I sold a little of my corn before I opened my M&M bags. I decided I wanted to sell all 8 of my pre-sold corn. I will take 8 times 3.50, which is $3.50, and I got a total of $28. Go ahead and use your calculator for these steps to complete. So I decided I was going to sell all 7 of my brown M&Ms. I'm only going to sell 9 of the 12 M&Ms. My orange M&Ms, I only chose to sell 9 of the 11. I guessed that there were going to be 8 yellow M&Ms, or 9 yellow M&Ms, and I chose to sell 8 M&Ms. So I guessed that there would be 10 green M&Ms, and I decided to sell 9 green M&Ms. Go ahead and complete the math. You can use your calculator if you need it. Once you have all of these numbers in the blank, go ahead and add all of these numbers up to get a total for step number 2. My total ended up being $175. Your totals will be different depending on the number of M&Ms you decide to pre-sell. Remember, pre-selling your corn is a risk, but it gives you a higher premium for your commodity if you have that available to sell to the market when it comes time to harvest. Take some time, complete those pre-sold blanks, and add up your total for step number 2. Once you finish that, go ahead and resume listening to the video, and we will move on to step number 3, which is the harvest. Remember, your bag of M&Ms should not be open yet. Step number 3, the harvest. Open your bag of M&Ms and place all of the M&Ms on the surface in front of you. I want you to count how many actual M&Ms you have of each color and enter those totals below. As you can see in my M&M bag, I had 12 blue M&Ms. Originally, I guessed there'd only be 8. I only had 6 brown M&Ms, and I guessed 7. I only had 7 red M&Ms, and I guessed 12. I got lucky here. I guessed 11 orange M&Ms, and I had 11 orange M&Ms in my bag. I guessed 9 yellow M&Ms, and I had 15 yellow M&Ms in my bag. I guessed 10 green M&Ms, and I only had 5 M&Ms in my bag. Go ahead and count the number of each color of M&Ms you have in your bag and place them in these blanks right here. Your numbers will be different than mine. Now that we have those M&Ms counted, you have to subtract what you have pre-sold, which is this category right here, from your actual harvest, and write the new number below. If you have oversold all or part of your harvest in step 2, you will have negative numbers in the blank. So step 3, we have to go back and kind of look at the actual harvest. So step 3, these are where all of our numbers come from right here, and they're going right in these blanks right here. Now I have to scroll back up and look at my pre-sold amount, which is in step 2. And these numbers right here will fall into these spots right here. Remember, your numbers will not look like my numbers will. If we think back, we harvested my fields. I harvested 12 blue M&Ms, and I pre-sold 8 for a total of 4 remaining. My brown M&Ms, I only had 6 that I harvested, but I sold 7. That leaves me with a negative number. I am missing 1 brown M&M, or 1 bushel of M&Ms that I'll have to buy back later so that I can sell to my co-op or my person that I'm marketing or selling my corn to. For red M&Ms, I only harvested 7, but I sold 9. So again, I have a negative number. Orange, I harvested 11 and I sold 9. So I have a positive number, which is 2. Yellow, 15. Actual harvested, the amount I pre-sold was 8. So I have a 7 remaining. Green, I only harvested 5 and I have 9 that I pre-sold. So I have a negative number there. Take some time, pause the video again, calculate those numbers, and resume playing once you have completed this box. We are now on step 4, where we are selling our corn that we did not pre-sell, if that makes sense. So take the information we obtained from step 3, which is right in this spot right here, and we will place it right here in step 4. So take the information you obtained in step 3 and use it below to find out how much money you made on your corn that was not pre-sold. So these are the extra corn or bushels that I did not sell. So only write down positive numbers. Skip the negative numbers until we get to step 7. We go back, I have a 4 for blue. My brown and red were negative numbers. I will leave those blank. Orange, I had 2, and yellow I had 7. and green was a negative number. So I left it blank. I will not put anything in those blanks that were negative because I oversold my crop. For the numbers that I have remaining though, for blue, orange, and yellow, I will calculate those. So 4 times $3.20 gave me $12.80. I had 2 times $3.20, $6.40. And yellow, I had 7 M&Ms times $3.20, and that gave me $22.40. I added those 3 numbers up for a total for my step number 4. For step number 5, this is before and after the harvest. So if you are still calculating step number 4, go ahead and press pause and return to the video once you have finished. Step number 5, this is the before and after harvest totals. Add together the total made either from pre-selling your corn at $3.50 or selling your corn at after harvest at $3.20. If you remember, if we scroll back up to step number 2, our total from step number 2 in my bag of M&Ms was $175. My $175 goes in this blank. And if I scroll up to step number 4, this was after harvest, which was $41.60. And that gave me a total from adding these 2 numbers up of $216.60. Again, your totals will be different than mine. Press pause, complete step number 5, and resume playing when you're ready for step 6. Step 6, the grand total. Did you oversell any corn? I did. So I circled yes. If no, write how much you made from step 5. I went ahead and wrote in step 5 right here. This is the grand total, $216.60. For step 7, this is the cost of overselling. I oversold 3 colors of my M&Ms, brown, red, and green. So now I have to buy those back at a higher price from the grain elevator. So if you oversold your corn, you will have to buy more corn to make up the difference. The grain elevator will also charge a handling fee on top of the base price of the corn you buy. Write all of your negative numbers from step 3 for each color of M&Ms you oversold in the blanks below. Write the sum of the number of these write the sum of these numbers in the total oversold blank, then find out how much you have to pay to buy more corn. We look up here in selling. Excuse me, if we go back up here to step 3, the harvest, I had to put a -1 for brown, a -2 for red, and a -4 for green. These numbers right here that are negative will be transferred into these blanks down here. So I oversold 1 brown M&M, 2 red M&Ms, and 4 green M&Ms. Add all of your M&Ms up from this row right here and place it right here. This will be a positive number because we have to times it by that higher price of $3.70. This is what the grain elevator is charging us because we were unable to deliver these 7 M&Ms after harvest. So 7 times 3.70 or $3.70 gave me a total of $25.90. We now have to discover how much money we make. So if you're still working on step 7, go ahead and pause the video and resume when you're ready for step 8. Step 8, the grand total. Now, subtract the total amount you oversold in step 7 from the total in step 5 to find out your grand total of how much money you made for the year. I'm going to go back up to step 5, which is right here, 216.60. That goes in step 5's total blank. And the total oversold amount from step 7 is 25.90 is where I place that number. I have to subtract those numbers because that 25.90 is what I have to pay back to the elevator. So with 216.60, $216.60 minus $25.90, I am left with a total of $190.70. I lost a little bit of money because I oversold a few of my crops. And that is the risk that farmers and ranchers have to take every year. Once you have the total number of M&Ms, go back up and I want you to graph the actual number. So from step 3, the harvest, you will take these numbers right here and finish your graph below. Graphs are really important to farmers because it's data that they look at after year so that they can better determine how many crops or how many acres of corn or soybeans that they are going to pre-sell for the next year. Can anyone tell me what surprised you most about selling corn on the futures market? Raise your hand if you realize that a farmer only makes money or receives a check at certain times of the year. How is this different than when some of your parents or your guardians receive their paychecks? Most people receive a paycheck 1 to 2 times per month, which covers their earnings. Many farmers only receive checks a few times a year, depending on when and how much they have to sell. That means farmers must be skilled at budgeting and planning to meet monthly expenses throughout the year, which can be kind of tricky when it comes to buying and selling your corn on the futures market. What are some subjects in school or school subjects and skills a farmer must be familiar with or understand well? Can you think of any subjects in school that a farmer might need to know really well in order to help them on their farms? Math is really important to farmers. They have to be able to calculate numbers and look at data to help them. That would go along with economics and the markets. They have to study the markets and understand how to sell their corn and when they should sell it according to the economic prices at the time. They have to have really good English, so communication skills to be able to communicate in that way. So English is really important to them. It's a school subject that we all learn. Social studies, understanding geography and different things that have to do with that. Science is really important to farmers. They're using technology every day on their farms to better increase their yields per bushel and per acre. They have to be able to understand the weather and the science that goes along with that because farmers plant their fields certain times of the year and they harvest at certain times during the year. Farmers typically plant their crops in the spring They grow during the summer and we harvest them in the fall. How would a graph similar to your M&M graph be of value to a farmer? Graphs and charts are visual representations that can help a farmer plan. By keeping track of the estimated amount and the actual amount of corn produced on specific acres, a farmer can use that information to better plan for the next year. Data is collected in an actual production history that shows the history of the previous 5 years of yields. So, farmers being able to use that technology each year to help them track the amount of seeds they harvest will help them be better at predicting their futures in the market the following year. What can we share with others about what we learned today? Farmers must plan and study markets for their commodities in order to guarantee the best price for their crops. They gather information about future market prices and use math skills and calculations to determine how to market and sell their product even before the crop is harvested. Farmers use several different subjects each day to help them on their farm, whether it's math, English with communication skills, science, economics, marketing, all of those different subjects help the farmer to better plan ahead when it comes to selling their crops.